up pace, and really this live Q&A is a result of hitting 1,000 members in the group, which for me is pretty amazing. And I'm hoping that the value I'm giving you guys is good, and I really want to give back on this Q&A to answer any questions you have. So I'm going to go through all the questions shortly, but just keep firing them in, and I'll kind of kick that off. Suzanne's got a lot, that's fine, absolutely fine. I'll go through in order anyway, so we'll see what we've got going on in terms of the question. Hey, Faris, Aziz, Dimitri, John, hello. Cool, right, so let me get this started off. So first of all, thanks for joining me. If you just fire in your questions, I'll go and answer them below. I don't know if you can share this from a group into your public feed. If you can, that would be awesome. If not, don't stress out. This is the first time for me doing it in this group. And it's really a closed Q&A for this group as well, to kind of give you some feedback on some questions you've got. So let me get started with Shantanu's question. So the question is, if you had to drive sales for a gym via Facebook ads, what kind of offers would you suggest the gym owner? With gyms, look, the thing is, often with a gym, you want to get to see the facilities and try it before you commit. So you need to know kind of what's special about that gym. At least where I live, there's like gyms within walking distance of each other. And so you need to kind of know what the unique selling point is. So, often people use free trial or $1 or £1 offer just to get people in. Others will actually bundle the value on top. So if you sign up today, you'll also get XYZ, or if you sign up for 1 month, we'll give you 3 months free. The goal is to get you into that gym first. And so through Facebook ads, if I'm going to be targeted by a gym, I want to know what's special about you, and not just the offer. I see, it frustrates me when I see ads in Facebook and they're just throwing offers at it to just try and get people to click. Everyone has different triggers. For me, it's not the offer that's going to do it. So thinking about what is the kind of unique position of that gym, I'd be pitching it based on that, and then creating a package over it. So whether it's a discount offer or bundle offer, building up something that can kind of help you cut through, and then kind of delivering that into an ad and targeting people in that way. So hopefully that just gives you an idea of how I'd approach that kind of ad as well. Fanny, any specific advice to rock at Facebook ads for e-com stores? There's a lot of advice I could give. Specifically, if I was going to give any advice, so I don't know if I posted up something recently. I was really annoyed to see a popular Facebook advertiser saying that you can't get, you can't market for products from e-com that are below $60, for example. That's not true. And I think it's a kind of mindset shift that when you're running e-com, yes, Facebook is getting more expensive, but think about the back-end offer. You're not just acquiring for one sale. If you are, then yeah, you may struggle. You might need to work on a higher ticket item. But with e-commerce, you're probably going to be selling to that customer more than once. So think of your cost per acquisition as just getting them through the door and work on lifetime value. That's where Facebook works really well, is when you're thinking about just getting that first sale, whether it's break even or profit, whatever it be, but look at that kind of post-purchase sequence, whether it's straight after buying and you're upselling them to product XYZ, or you're looking at an email sequence after that, or even if you're looking at running dynamic product ads post-purchase, which also work well as well. But don't just focus on the cost per acquisition. I think that's where a lot of people fall over when it does come to Facebook ads, is just not thinking about that journey all the way through as well. So hopefully that was one idea of kind of how to make e-com stores rock. I have a course coming out on this, but I can't cover all the awesome things on e-com for Facebook ads, but hopefully that's just one kind of mind shift when it comes to Facebook ads. Cyprian, what is the secret to ad targeting most marketers or brands don't know? I don't know if there's any secret. Look, honestly, Facebook's an open book. You have access to the same data that everyone has when it comes to audiences. The difference is how you're thinking about it and how you're constructing your avatar and how you're kind of pitching who your ideal customer looks like. So it's not so much, ad targeting what the secret's there. Yes, there are different ways to target people. For me, I think it comes down to understanding that Facebook works best when you're thinking about staging funnels. So a cold audience, a warm audience, a hot audience, existing customers. That's the way I break it down when I'm building up a Facebook campaign, is thinking about the kind of cold audience targeting, what kind of creative do they need, what kind of messaging do they need, and then building up a warm audience or take them straight to the website and maybe retargeting or trying to convert them. So I think the ad targeting, you know, we all have access to the same audience insights that are on Facebook. We can build video views audiences, we can build engagement audiences. The key thing for me is just testing all that out. You know, you need to test, and you know, my approach for testing is to test in page post engagement, grab audiences, do $10, $20, $30 a day tests, and just see what's working, and then build that into your main objective, whether that's website conversion or lead generation, and start to then see if you can slowly start to scale that up and if you've got potential. But really for me, it's about understanding who you're pitching to and then testing the different targeting around there. There is a tool which I am using, which is called FB Niche Finder, which is pretty awesome because you can type in keywords and you can get kind of search volumes back for that particular keywords, or how many times it's coming up in interests. The other tool I use is also Google AdWords. Give you an example, we had an apparel e-commerce store, and we were looking for ideas to target people on men's trainers. And actually within Google AdWords, you can type in men's trainers and it will come back with different suggestions for keywords around that. And you can take that back into Facebook and see if those keywords come up as interest as well. So they're kind of two different tools, I guess, I use for finding audiences, especially using interest as well. Next up, scrolling through these comments. So Suzanne, I want to use engagement as objective for my posts. First fans, then friends of fans, awesome. And then use a conversion objective with a 1% lookalike for my target audience. A, is this, I need to click see more. So A, there's quite a few parts to this. So A, is this a successful strategy? First, validate the content, then fire away at possible buyers. So let me answer that first. So what you want to do, based on what you've said, is I want to target engagement with my fans and then friends of fans. Now, I'm assuming you've got a lot of fans, because if you had hundreds, I'd say that's not really worth doing. If you're kind of testing with your existing fans, I'd probably ask, how did you get them in the first place? If you got them organically, great. If you got them through paid advertising, then just start doing that paid advertising to a cold audience. If you know something about your audience and you want to get there faster, then maybe start with them. If you're just doing creative and offer testing and you've got audiences in the tens of thousands, then actually that's a good idea. Take them into page post engagement. Don't do boosting. I'm not a big fan of boosting. So take that campaign into your page post engagement, fire up that audience and start doing some small tests and creatives and see what kind of engagement you're getting. I don't personally look at cost per engagement when it comes to PPE. I'm looking for click-through rate, because if someone's clicking an ad and you're targeting them on engagement, that's a great sign that your ad's really good. One of the things that people overlook is a page post engagement ad doesn't mean that you will only get likes, share, and comments. You will get clicks, you will get purchases, you will get leads if your ad is good as well. And so that's why I also look at click-through rate on my page post engagement ads. So first of all, yes, it's a good way of validating your content, your creative, but you do need a sizable audience. One of the strategies, if you are following this, is to target your fans, get your fans to like your posts, and then push that same post out to friends of fans, because then the friends of fans will see that such and such has liked it and liked the page and all that kind of stuff. So that helps on the validation front. Second question, as I can't change objective, should I just create the advertisement twice, or do you have a workaround? There is a workaround. You can share the post ID in your page post engagement campaign and then reuse that post ID in a website conversion campaign. The way I do this is create a dummy campaign, make it a website conversion campaign, create your original ad in that dummy campaign. So in your audience targeting, just set it to like some random audience and make sure it doesn't switch on. Then take the page post ID, which you do by previewing the ad in Facebook with comments. And then there's a string of numbers at the end of the / in that preview. Take that set of digits and then go into your page post engagement, create a new ad and do existing post, and then enter the ID. There's a little link that says enter ID. paste that number in and it will load that ad into your page post engagement ad set. Run that, let it run, let it rack up its likes, shares, and comments. That will be shared within that post ID so that when you're ready now to push that into website conversion, you just need to do the same process again. So create the ad in website conversion, add the post ID, and that same post with its shares, likes, and comments will be fired up in website conversion. Doesn't work for all objectives. So for example, app install, that doesn't work. And also lead generation, that doesn't work as well. So specifically for website conversion, if you're doing that, then that's a good strategy. Is it better to get into bidding strategies for ads or let Facebook optimize your ads? If you want to give your ads the day of light and you want to actually get some feedback for them, at least when you're testing, then you might want to separate them out into ad sets. My preference is to run 3 ads per ad set and make sure there's always a minimum of 3 running to give Facebook a variation. If I see that one ad is getting too much traffic, too much budget, and it's not doing as well, I'll pause that out and let the other 2 start to surface as well. The problem is that Facebook will optimize to your optimized pixel. So let's say, for example, you've got an ad where you're running website conversion and your optimized pixel is add to cart. You may have another ad that's getting more conversions, better return on ad spend, but it will give the budget to the ad that's getting the most add to cart. So that might not actually be what you want out of it as well. So just think about what your objective is for that ad set and whether your ads are getting the right traffic based on that. Now, let's take another example. Let's say you're running 2 promotions. One is 25% off, the other one is free delivery. If you want to run those both at the same time, run them in separate ad sets. So duplicate the ad set and run the ad separately, and then you're guaranteed to give them a better share of the traffic. If you let Facebook optimize, one of the ads will get more traffic than the other, and you might not get a good split of data so you can understand what's going on. If you want to do it scientifically, then you can use Facebook's split test tool, and that will actually cut your traffic in half and make sure that one creative is only seen by one group of people and one creative seen by another group. So that's more if you want cleaner data. The downside of that is you have to create a brand new campaign, click the split test option, and then create your ad set in that, which if you want to do a quick test isn't the most convenient way of doing it. So my preference is to just test within a single ad set, and if I want to test separately, just duplicate that ad set out. Let's have a look at the next one. Is it better to use lifetime schedule with specific hours or daily schedule when mostly advertised? So if you're running for 5 days only, the thing I don't like about lifetime budget is if you're having a really good day and you want to up your budgets, your hands are tied because you've set your lifetime budget and that's it, and you're waiting for Facebook to just do its thing. If you've got like a 1-day promotion or even a 2-hour promotion, then you do lifetime and do accelerated delivery and just make sure it spends as quickly as possible. My preference is to use daily so I can increase and decrease my budgets as I need to, as I see performance. So I'm not a general fan of lifetime. If you're running a campaign on 5 days, then just use daily budgets and then increase and decrease based on performance. And you've got the flexibility that if you see a particular day doing really, really well, you can increase the budget out. If you want more stability and you've just got a set budget over 5 days and you want Facebook to decide, then just use lifetime budget and let Facebook run its course over those 5 days. General trend question, which objective post format do you think works best in 2018? There isn't a best one. It really depends on what you want out of it. If it's e-commerce, then it's a combination of page post engagement, video views, website conversion, product catalog. If you're running lead gen ads and all you want is emails from lead forms, then I'd be using lead gen and maybe a combination of video views to build up cold audiences. Really depends on your product, your strategy, etc. So there's no best objective. Some people say you always use website conversion because that's where you're going to get the best conversions and that's how Facebook's going to work best. Yes, if that's e-commerce, and yeah, absolutely go for website conversions. But if you're doing lead gen, app install, then it needs to be pertinent to what you're doing in the campaign as well. Next question, I'm going to try and get through these quickly, Suzanne, because I want to get through to others as well. A post shows how many people it has reached, but nowhere does it say which part of this is beyond your fans or outside your fan base. Can you find these numbers anywhere? So no, you can't. So if you're targeting fans and you're targeting other people within that, you can't break it out. The only way you can do that is target fans separately and obviously your separate audiences separately as well. Otherwise it will merge it all together. So you want to set up a messenger campaign. What's the best way to get people to start a conversation with you, which you can PM afterwards with a bot. So there are tools out there that allow you to run an ad. And then if people put certain keywords in your ad, you can then private message them. So there's one popular one, Message Hero, MSG Hero, which is kind of simply plug and play. If you just want to test it out, then give Message Hero a go. But if you want a bit more flexibility, then you'll start to dive into tools like ManyChat, Chatfuel, and start to do that a lot more customized to what you need as well. Thanks for those questions, Suzanne. I'm going to move on now to Marcellus. Hey, what's the best converting marketing collateral you provide to win over and acquire new customers? Collateral, I'm just trying to understand what you mean there. So if I'm doing an ad, then it depends what I'm doing. If I'm trying to give them a lead magnet, if that's what you mean by collateral, then generally a PDF. But that PDF has to be really super high value. Reason is that there's so much going on with all these ads going out there saying, give me your email address and we'll give you this great download. Because there's so many people doing it, it's starting to lose its appeal. So you really need to kind of stand out. And actually what people miss out is don't just run an ad and say, here's a PDF, download it. Give them value in the ad. Make them feel, wow, this is really high value. I'm going to go and click that PDF because there's, you've already sold the value to me. So for example, if I wanted to bring people into my course and I wanted to grab their email address in return for a PDF, I'm going to probably deliver a video ad and give them a ton of value in that video and say, by the way, you can click here to get even more value in this PDF. So you can kind of pre-qualify them before you even get them in, and there's more chance of them engaging, giving that the email address and going for that PDF as well. Now, if you mean collateral in terms of creative formats and things like that, I know people say, static ads are not as good as they used to be. That's generally true. But I think for me, it depends on where people are in the marketing funnel. So for cold audiences, generally something a bit more engaging like video, carousel, etc. works better. For retargeting, for example, I've seen static ads work fairly well because at that point, they know you, they've been on the site, they've got an idea of what they are doing. You just need to trigger them to come back. And at that stage, you don't have to work the creative so hard. One thing that I really try and drill home on creative optimization is you only have two goals when it comes to the newsfeed. Number one, get them to stop scrolling. And number two, get them to engage. That's all the creative needs to do. So if you think about the image itself, even when you're running a video and you've got a thumbnail, get them to stop scrolling. And that's why you see so many ads out there with completely random images, because that's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to get you to stop scrolling. The more you fit into the newsfeed, the more people will scroll past. Now, it doesn't mean go completely wild and put like a pink block and say, look at me. Then that will just annoy people. But it has to be something which is Facebook friendly, but stands out and gets that impression as well. So get them to stop scrolling and then get them to engage. And that's what video does really well. Carousels do really well. And good copy will lead them in as well. And then once you've got that engagement, then you can kind of get your objective through as well. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, then explain in a bit more detail what you mean by collateral. Hey, Rizal. Hey, Alex. Fanny, any suggestions for yoga studio and yoga retreat Facebook ads campaigns? One thing about things like yoga is people don't do yoga because they want to stretch limbs into crazy positions. Think beyond that. What's the why? What's the purpose of actually doing yoga? And get that out in your ad. If I see an ad and it says yoga, then yeah, if I'm interested in it, I might be in the yoga market. Great, I might take interest. If you're talking to me about mindfulness, relaxation, health, and all that kind of stuff, that's the kind of pitch that I'd be looking at in the yoga. And if you can get a video of that as well and kind of showing the benefits of it, and not just in the studio, but kind of, maybe testimonials or something like that, to sell me the emotion. It's quite easy to focus on functional things when it comes to advertising, but most people buy an emotion. They're more likely to actually spend more with you if you can hook them on their right side of the brain and talk about the emotional side of it. So if I'm running an ad for a yoga studio or yoga retreat, slightly different things. For a yoga retreat, I'd be thinking a bit more aspirational. I imagine it would cost more. So you're talking about potentially a higher hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollar ticket value. I want to sell you inspiration. I want to sell you aspiration. I want you to feel like you're there. I want you to feel like this is what you need right now. So I would probably run a combination of video views campaigns and test different videos to get people into my video view engagement, and also potentially build a funnel off of that as well. I think is a real cool way of building funnels almost silently, where you can run 2, 3, 4 videos, and you know that people have seen video 1, and then you create a video views audience and give them video 2, do another kind of percentage local custom audience based on that second video, and then serve them through video 3. And you can do that over a course of days, if not weeks, and really prime them in without selling to them, and make them like really interested in what you're doing, and then start to deliver your direct response as well. So take them through the journey. I think Facebook have done a great job of enabling you to do that. I remember 4 or 5 years ago, we'd be talking about reach and frequency, and you have to buy a set amount of impressions and things like that. And it was really, really difficult to do this kind of stuff. Video views retargeting has really opened it up. So there's a whole range of stuff you can do. Target people that have engaged with a percentage or a couple of seconds of your video, retarget them with a static, go for post engagement. There's just many things you can do, even with Canvas, for example. So you could combine it up and do like a video ad, and then do a Canvas ad, and then people that have engaged with the Canvas, give them another video. It's just as wild as your imagination can be. But I think you're just thinking about, if you're in that position, you see on your ad, what's going to motivate you? What's going to get you excited about this, the retreat or the studio? Hey, Abu. Andrew, hello from sunny Santa Monica. Wow, I'd love to be there right now. I'm in London, so it's -2. It was actually snowing today as well, which was nice. Not really. Alex, do you use multiple accounts for one client? No, I don't. Generally, when I work with client accounts, I make sure they have their own. I don't want to take any responsibility for anything happening to that account. Touch wood, I've never had an account closed because I stay on the white side of the grey line. So I don't do any black hat stuff, and I make sure that I'm on the good side of the policy. I see lots of people getting banned, and they've kind of either gone on the grey side of the line or the kind of black side of Facebook advertising. But as long as you keep your policies clean, you can keep your ads clean. But I mean, if you were to bundle your accounts together, your clients together into one account, then that would be kind of a risky strategy. So I use multiple accounts for multiple clients. But I think your question is multiple accounts for one client. There's a good reason to do that, which is the flip side, that if you accidentally get your account closed down, you've got your backup. So a lot of people will have 2 accounts running. You can have 1 pixel and share that pixel to the other account, or have 2 pixels firing on the website. So I guess it's really down to your strategy. I've had one in the past where I ran a global campaign. We actually split the accounts by regions. So we had 1 Europe account, 1 North America, 1 Far East, and we had different people looking at it. So really depends on what your purpose is. If you're just looking for safety and a backup, no harm in having a second account, share the pixel and audiences and things like that across your accounts. But generally, I'd have a kind of one-to-one mapping, unless I felt there was a kind of higher risk, and maybe you just have a backup account for that as well. Alex, recent post about AOV threshold. I remember it's not advisable to set e-com campaign with AOV less than $60. Yep. Does large volume, existing Amazon experience, counterbalance the lower AOV? If yes, to what degree? The product in question is AOV of $40. So look, my point on that post is twofold. Number one, I think it is completely irresponsible for an influencer to say you cannot advertise on Facebook for e-commerce products below $60. That's just not true. It's BS. And I think, you know, I've come across people who have seen that post and said, I was disheartened because I've got a $35 product and I saw this ad and he said you can't sell anything under $60. That's not true. If you can control your CPC and get a high conversion rate, absolutely you can. One of our clients is selling a $25 product right now. Conversion on the site is something like 6%. Their CPC is between $1 and $1.50. So we're profitable on our CPA, but their goal isn't on the first sale to make a profit. They want to upsell that customer after that first sale, and then they want to generate a lifetime value as well. So they're looking at a 12-month value for that cost per acquisition. So we're acquiring between $15 and $20 for this particular campaign. their lifetime value, I think, is something like $80, $100. So now all of a sudden you look at the lifetime value and you say $15, $20 as an acquisition cost is not so bad. And this is where I get quite irritated when I hear people say, you know, cost per acquisition, e-commerce, difficult, etc. I've done e-commerce for so many years, and I know so many people avoid it because it's so difficult, go for high ticket coaching and easy chiropractors and doctors and things like that. I generally don't take the easy route in life. And so I know how to make e-commerce work. I know how to make all the other niches work as well. But e-commerce has to be about lifetime value. If you have a product that's only bought once every 12 months, and think about bundles and promotions and how can you get that front end value higher. So there's always a way to get it working. So if you've got $40 product, there's a simple equation to figure out what your metrics need to be. Your CPA, you know, for a $40 product and $40 AOV, if you can get that CPA profitable, or if you can break even and you can kind of get that upsold in the next purchase, then that's really what you're aiming for. So hopefully that answers your question. So for me, it doesn't have to be a $60 product. Yes, it makes it easier, and if you want the easy life, then go for a $100 product. But guaranteed, you're going to have to work harder for that conversion as well. We've got a client who have an AOV of $500. Their website conversion rate is 0.5% because it's a high ticket value, and we have to take people through a more considered journey to convert. They're still profitable because our cost per acquisitions are £50, £100, but you know the conversion rates are not as high. So there's a kind of offset between high AOV and the kind of cost per click and conversion rates you're going to get. And just kind of, I think it's doable. There's obviously going to be some cases where it's not so easy. You're selling a $10 product and the margin is $5, and you know you want to sell it on Facebook for $5. It might be a bit more difficult. There's so many factors to consider: how competitive is the niche, how good your creative, etc., etc. But you know, just going back to that, I don't think it's as easy as saying you can't sell anything under $60, because you absolutely can. Saeed, how do you keep costs stable as you scale a specific ad set that's working well at low spend? You know, one of the key things about scaling is the more budget you start to pile in. So there's two ways of scaling. There's what I call the V scaling and the H scaling. So V is going up, you're increasing your budget increasingly in a kind of V shape vertically. And then there's horizontal scaling. So you might duplicate ad sets and kind of make changes. You might tweak manual bid or placements or age ranges, things like that. So there's two ways of scaling. Now, if you're scaling an ad set vertically and you're increasing the budget, Facebook is now trying to expand its reach into different audiences. And what often happens is your cost per click also goes up because you're reaching different people that have maybe not seen your ad before. And what I find it, the biggest thing that works is to keep refreshing your creatives. Because what happens is when you're comfortably spending a set amount every day, you're probably targeting very similar people within that. So your ads will generally perform okay. Is when you start to scale that spend up, start to scale your testing of your creative, and I guarantee that will give you a better result. So what you're looking at is to try and keep your cost per click fairly static as you're scaling, and try and hope that your conversion rate's good as well. So you're attracting good traffic and you're converting at the same rate. And really through your creative refresh is where you're going to maintain that cost per click as well, especially if you've got good volume in your audience. So let's say you're spending $50 a day, you've got an audience of 1 million. That $50 is going to take a long time to reach every single person. You can check your how many people you've actually reached in Delivery Insights. Delivery Insights, if you don't know, if you go into Ads Manager, go into your columns, you can add Delivery Insights as a column. But also, if you select the in Ads Manager, if you select the reports, the kind of the views, I guess, for your data, there's one now called Delivery. Look at your Delivery Insights and look for how many people you've reached. So there's like a unique reach percentage, and it will tell you how much scope there is still to grow. So, you know, if you just started advertising to an audience and you're spending $50 a day, you've probably reached 0.something%. So you've still got scope to grow your targeting to that audience. So if your performance drops where it was good, change up your creative. So in an audience of 1 million, guaranteed there are multiple personas in there. And just because you hit the kind of lucky jackpot with one persona and one creative, doesn't mean that's all what it's about. So just starting to scale up, try different creatives, different angles, different messages, different images, and work on maintaining that cost per click so you can continue scaling as well. Rizal, for a startup shoe brand, would you target broad or specific? Broad or specific interests. So I guess for me, it's testing. I never come into any kind of account and say, this is how we should do it. This is how we've always done it. I have a specific way of testing. I call it the graduation framework, where I use page post engagement to test different interests and then figure out which ones are working and then graduate them to a website conversion campaign. So I would set up, let's say you have 10, 20, 30 interests, set up each interest in a separate ad set because you want to know which specific one's working. Then when, let's say you've got 3 or 4 interests that are working, bundle those up if they're relevant to each other into a website conversion campaign, and then start spending higher on that to see if you can get performance. Now, in terms of broad targeting, if you have a seasoned pixel, which means the pixel has been running on your website and you've already given good data to Facebook, then actually broad targeting works. So you can kind of almost take out your interests and kind of target really broad without lookalikes and things like that. And it does work. It is super, super good because the Facebook algorithm doesn't just rely on your optimized pixel and what you're doing in the ad set. It has a ton of data on your user that you have no idea how much they're collecting on your users. So if, for example, you've got a shoe site and you've got no data on it, then you want to start getting data in that, and then you start doing kind of interest targeting, building things up off of that. Once you've got, I don't know what the number is, once you've got like 50, 500 sales, you're starting to see more traction come through on your website, then you can start testing with broad. For me, it needs a lot of traffic for that pixel to be in a position where I can do it broad as well. But if you're talking broad as in like broad targeting of demographics and things like that, if I'm starting out, I would always start with an audience if I can, whether it's a custom audience or a lookalike audience or an interest audience or behavior or a combination of all those things. I wouldn't start with just blanket broad targeting, because then, especially for a new site, which it sounds like you've got, you need to give Facebook something to start with. So I would always try and do that first. Fanny, retargeting with 4 exclamation marks. I don't know if that's a statement or a question. So I don't know. Hello. Ethan, any good ideas for cold outreach for a web design client? I know I still got to get back to you on that question. So web design client, sell the visual. You know, web design is all about kind of what you're delivering. In terms of the targeting, there's a ton of stuff you can already do. So small business owners is probably the most obvious one, but think about other industries as well. So even something like Shopify. Shopify is there as an interest, or entrepreneurs like the Frank Kerns and the Russell Bransons and people like that. People that are following those are probably also entrepreneurs and business owners and things like that. So think about those different ways of targeting, and then on your creative, try and sell the outcome, the sizzle. You know, people are not going to buy web design services because you tell them that you do it. Prove what you're doing and prove that what you're doing is different. So the visual, you need to work harder for that, is to give a bit of depth behind your web design portfolio. So for example, if you can create a video which is a bit more immersive, isn't just kind of a flat video of here's like a web design that we've done and things like that, make it interesting, make it immersive, and focus on your audience. So when I do audience targeting, if I'm doing entrepreneurs, then I would be thinking about what kind of creative is going to work for entrepreneurs. If I'm doing a targeting to Shopify fans, and I know that they're probably doing drop shipping or some other kind of e-com, then I would focus my creative on e-com. If I'm doing small business owners generally, and it could be a whole range of people within that, then again, I'm going to focus my creative and messaging on small business owners. So think about your kind of targeting and also the creative to kind of match that and really bring that together and just keep testing around that as well. Nicholas, speaking of testing, what kind of split tests have you run recently? Could you share some interesting insights, please? As an ex-Facebook person, and I imagine you've got a ton of stuff to share as well, Nicholas. But yeah, in terms of split testing, I guess we're doing this kind of every single day. So I'm just trying to think of an interesting one that we've tested. So actually, we did one on a two-sided marketplace, which is aimed at bringing in buyers and sellers for this particular e-com business. And we were testing Canvas ads, and we tested Canvas ads to the buyer. We tested Canvas ads to the seller. And actually what we found was that the buyers absolutely loved it. The Canvas ads performed really, really well because people were just focused on buying, and that just seemed to work for that format. But for the sellers, we just could not get them to convert. We tried different creative, different messaging, etc. That format just didn't work for the sellers in this two-sided marketplace. So that's something where, again, when it comes down to personas, some formats just don't work for certain people. Think about age ranges, devices, things like that. Not everyone reacts to the different formats in the same way as well. Other kind of split test, we did one recently where we were looking to split test in fact, I often do this where I split test bidding levels. So I'm a big fan of manual bidding. I think it's given over the last 2-3 years an edge for people that really know how to use it. But for example, when I'm scaling up a particular ad set and I want to scale it horizontally to duplicate the ad set and add more budget onto it, what I often do is test different boundaries of max bid. My best practice is that I'm doing a max bid at 1, 2, 3, and 4 times the CPA target that I've got. So if I've got a CPA target of 20, I'll do maybe 20, 40, 60, 80, and then test those ad sets side by side, and you get some really, really cool and interesting results from that. And what I try and do is find my boundaries between the high and low bid by doing that. And then once I've found it, use average bid and start to scale the spend up on that. So, you know full well there's so many things that you can test out. What I will say is there should never, ever be a time when you are not testing. Even if things are flying for you, you should not stop testing. Facebook as an auction, by its virtue, is changing every day. And if you're not continually testing and you're just standing still because performance is doing well, you're actually going backwards, and you have to keep testing creatives. That's why, when I'm running whatever type of campaign, mobile, lead gen, website conversion, I'm always testing creatives and audiences, $10, £10 in the background. So I'm always ready. If there's a problem with an audience that's not working or a creative that's not working, I've always got backups. So there should never be a scenario where you're not testing for that one. Justin, what was the name of the first tool? I think you mean FB Niche Finder. It's a piece of software that you install on your machine. I think it's like $100, $150 for the year. It's really nothing for what it does. And yeah, it's a pretty good tool to just do some kind of audience research and stuff like that. Fanny, I think I've answered your question on Niche Finder. Joe, FB Niche Finder, thank you. Stephen, hey, how you doing? Can you give me your take on scaling with lower budgets for lead generation, 500 to 2K per month? I actually honestly find lead generation easier to scale than website conversion. I just find the auctions a lot more predictable. The general rules, I guess I follow. So I use automation and rules and things like that. What I do is to set a rule in place that I will not scale more than 20% per bump. And I would do a max of twice a day. Now, I wouldn't recommend you do more than 1 bump of your budget per day until you're really confident on what to do when things go wrong and what metrics to look out for. But because I've been doing this for so long, I generally do bump twice a day. So the first bump will be based on yesterday's performance. So if I know that yesterday's been good and I'm confident in the past few days, then I'll do a 20% bump as early as possible. Through automation, you can do it 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the morning, for example. Then I'll do a bump in the kind of mid-afternoon as well. So if that day is actually performing well, I'm going to take advantage of it there as well. What I would say is if you're doing 2 bumps of your budget in a single day, you probably don't want to do 1 in the next day because you need to let things even out as well. But if you want to scale lead generation faster, then just use the sideways scaling as well. So if you're spending £500 a day and all of a sudden you want to get to 1,000, duplicate the ad set. If you've got enough audience within that, you can change up creatives or maybe try max bid on one of the duplications, things like that. It's a really easy way to scale up quite quickly. But for lead generation, I find that the vertical scaling is a lot more reliable than something like website conversion. Justin, Facebook clearly don't like straight cold lead generation, and it's all about building audiences and retargeting. I feel we are having to get more and more creative. What's your thoughts on lead gen long term? There's two sides of lead gen. So one is if you're just going for lead gen off of Facebook, the quality will generally be lower unless you've primed them, then taking people off of Facebook, giving them a form and getting them to sign up for email. But obviously the volume will be lower because you're adding some friction throughout as well. I had an update from Facebook today. Some of you may have already seen it. You can now do Canvas ads with lead gen as well. And I think that is a super good thing that you should be testing, which is to give people a bit more of an immersive experience, i.e. a landing page experience on Facebook, which Canvas does, but then do lead gen within the Canvas ad. So it gives you an opportunity to sell a bit harder off of an ad, whether you're running a static ad or a video, whatever it is, get them into that Canvas for lead gen and then grab that email address that way as well. To directly answer your question, yes, lead generation is getting a lot harder because there's so many advertisers out there that are just doing it bad, and it gives us good guys a harder time in the auction. So you absolutely need to work harder, but what I would do is just try and think a bit differently in terms of how you're going to generate that lead as well. I don't know if you've seen, like, there's a lot of business owners using a lot more humor in their videos before capturing the lead. It's just trying to think a bit differently and maybe not be so serious. If your brand's super serious, then fine, but just try and be a bit more lighthearted, give value, give a bit of humor, associate, connect with your consumer, and then ask for that email. And then just try and take people on the journey. Again, you could do, I think Fanny might have mentioned, use video views, etc., etc. Use video views, prime them up, and then retarget people that have viewed a percentage of your video with your lead gen ad. Maybe do a general video views campaign, target people that have viewed 50% or 10 seconds, and then hit them up with a Canvas lead gen, for example. So, there's an opportunity to prime people before grabbing their email address as well. Hey, Alicia, such a good tip for maintaining social proof. Cool. Stephen, specifically with budgets, duplicating ad sets, etc., video is staple for us. So Stephen, hopefully I answered your question. If not, then fire another question below. Syed, how do you increase the daily frequency of your DPA campaigns? So when you say daily frequency, I'm not quite sure what you mean. So dynamic product ads, it's driven by your budget, right? So generally there's two types of dynamic product ads. You've got the ones that can go to broad audiences, then you've got the ones that go to retargeted audiences. For example, if you want to get more impressions up, then you increase your budget, then you probably end up reaching more people, or you use a different type of targeting and just try and get more impressions out there. I'm not entirely sure what your ask is on increasing the daily frequency of DPA campaigns, because I wouldn't use frequency to judge performance. I'd be looking at my cost per acquisition, my return on ad spend, as to how that DPA campaign is performing. And in terms of budgets, if that's performing well, I'd nudge the budget up ever so slightly to see if I can squeeze more performance out without annoying people and bumping up that frequency. Because ultimately, the more times you hit people up, the more chance of someone saying, I don't want to see this ad anymore. And that has a massive negative on your performance as well. Joe Quinn, how would you build a basic funnel for testing new products in e-commerce? So for testing new products in e-commerce, I would use my graduation strategy, which is the page post engagement objective. I'm then testing different audiences, one interest or interest behavior pair or lookalike per ad set, testing with the best creatives I've got until I can validate what creatives there are, and testing multiple offers as well. So if you're running 10 different ad sets with different targeting, run a multiple creative in all of them and keep testing, testing, and testing until you get the one that's giving you a good CPC and CTR, and then move that into your website conversion campaign, and then start to see if you can generate sales off the back of that. Abu, any advice on website conversions? Like, first I should run a page post engagement, then conversion, add on that. I think I answered that in the last question, actually. Michelle, how do you estimate CPA while scaling? Do you have a formula to forecast CPA when doubling the budget, for instance? Well, I guess the goal is when you're doubling your budget, you want to maintain a CPA. Reality is your cost per click is going to go up. So this is something I talked about earlier, that when you do start to scale, your the Facebook targeting will try and reach more and more people within your audience. they may not be the same type of people that you're getting good performance from as well. So the key thing is there to keep refreshing your creative, try and control that CPC. In terms of forecasting, I don't think it's not something you can predict because the auction is unpredictable. So I couldn't sit here and say, right, your budget is $1,000 today and you want to hit $2,000 spend. This is what CPA you're going to get, because it's all dependent on competition and your performance in the auction and things like that. But I think it's more about controlling the cost per acquisition as much as you can, and using the right scaling methods to try and control that as well. Alex, strategies to manually turn campaigns off during unproductive time intervals during the day, then turning them on later in the day. Any way to automate that process? So yes, you can automate that process. There's lots of automation tools out there. I personally like RevealBot, and I'm hoping to get the founder on here to do a live Q&A with you guys as well. But there's other tools out there, AI Target, and I don't know, there's lots of tools. So there are tools out there. You can also use Facebook for automation as well. I don't think it's as flexible as some of the other tools out there. So yes, you can turn ads on and off during the day on intervals and things like that. Strategies to manually turn campaigns off. So what I actually do, which I would recommend you do, and this is something I've been doing manually for years, and automation now allows me to do it all hands-free, is if performance for an ad hits a certain threshold and I'm not happy with it, then I get the automation to cut it. But what I also do here is what I call have the antidote rule, which is if all of a sudden conversions come in, even though the ad is actually off, to automatically switch that back on as well. So I often have ads during the day that are switched off because they hit the threshold and they're not performing. You know, they've hit, for example, 5,000 impressions and generated less than 2 sales, and the CPA is too high, we'll cut it automatically. They'll get cut off. But there's also a subsequent rule that says if the CPA for that ad comes below the threshold within a 3-day period, then we're automatically starting it again. So that's a great way of A, controlling your cost per acquisition, and B, if an ad does start to perform, you can automatically turn that back on as well. And you know, because I work with multiple clients, it's my duty to protect their investment, their cost per acquisition, and it's a great way for us to do this at scale as well. So we can make sure that we're not shooting past any of our CPA or CPL or CPI targets. And within our kind of the process of working, if we see that ads are getting switched off, we're straight into those ad sets and firing up new ads as well. So you can add automation to support that kind of stuff as well. Justin, any ideas on how to advertise car finance? Don't focus on the finance, focus on the car. That's ultimately what people want. So you'll hear me a lot talking a lot about the kind of sizzle. Just focus on the car itself, because you're selling people the car and say, you know, this kind of car is within your reach. The type of people you're targeting, I think you can, who is it, Axiom or one of these data providers, you can actually buy up data, third-party data, push it into Facebook of people whose car lease hires are due, or people that are leasing cars, people that their car insurance is due. There's lots of different things. Speak to third-party data providers. There's a 25% premium on the cost per click, or the auction cost on the CPM for using these providers. But if you want direct access to audiences that are going to match people that are probably more interested in car finance, you can just bypass the whole testing and finding interests and behaviors, go to the third party, grab the hard data and start targeting them, and then start serving ads on you know, the new car is within your reach, and then get them into some kind of funnel, whether it's video views, lead gen, etc., and then convert them through that into finance as well. Hussein, what type of testing methodology do you use when first touching a new proven offer? New proven offer. If it's, I'm just trying to understand. New and proven doesn't quite make sense. I'm going to assume you mean a new offer, not a proven offer. Campaign structure, spend, duration, types of variations, etc. So if I'm testing a new offer, again, I would be doing this through page post engagement. So I answered a question earlier, actually in one of the posts from someone saying, I'm running an app install campaign, how do I test? I also test that through page post engagement as well. The great thing about page post engagement is if you have any given audience, when you're doing website conversion or mobile app install or lead gen targeting, Facebook is only going after a small part of that audience. When you're doing page post engagement or video views or reach, you're getting a wider access to that audience. Facebook is a prediction algorithm. It's predicting that these people are likely to submit their email address, to install this app, to purchase from you. But there are also people that Facebook predicts wrong as well. And so by testing the page post engagement first, you're just trying to see if people are actually interested in this offer. And again, I'd use click-through rate to judge whether this offer is motivating for people as well. You can use cost per engagement as well to see if that's kind of working. I guess that's kind of my way of testing. Let's see, next, John, love the use of multiple videos, moving through the funnel, awesome. Ulysses, sequence retargeting on Facebook or follow-up email sequence? Depends what you're doing. If it's high ticket, absolutely grab that email and take them off of Facebook and finish that sequence. So for example, if I'm doing coaching, when I think November, we did like over $1 million for this particular coaching client, and we did it purely through lead gen, using the lead gen objective. And all we're doing is just getting emails for this particular client as low as we could. We were, well, you know, when we took this client on, they were getting cost per leads of around £5. We reduced that down to between £1.50 and £2. And we were collecting leads up until this launch. When the launch happened, they'd already started to prime them through emails to get them ready for the launch. They did a big launch email. We did a big launch website conversion campaign and a brand reach campaign and a video views campaign, and bulked all this together to generate a big 7-figure launch for these guys. So I think the bigger the ticket value, you absolutely need to take them offline. Like I said earlier in this video call, we have a client doing about £500 AOV, and they're converting through cold and retargeted traffic as well. So I think it really depends on what you're selling, how much persuasion you need to go through as well. Also how easy it is for them to understand through just a Facebook ad, and whether you do need to just take them off and do some offline selling as well. So I think the ticket value and the type of product or the type of offer plays a big part as well. Nicholas, Facebook is pushing hard for automatic placements in ad sets. Absolutely. What's your experience with that versus split ad sets per placement? So I was a big advocate of keeping it together up until probably the last 18 months, where I've seen, especially with different formats and pushing different budgets and bypassing the algorithm, it's worked better. Now, the reason to keep the placement is because when you have multiple placements in one ad set, you're giving the decision to Facebook to decide when to serve the right ad in the right placement to individual customers. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, there's a particular person in your target market and you're selling handbags, for example. If you put all of your placements together, Facebook will know that this particular customer who's in your 25 to 35 demographic, every morning she logs into her phone to browse. She never buys between 8 and 9 a.m., but she'll browse because she's on her way to work or whatever it be. Facebook also knows between 12 and 2, she's on a lunch break, she's also browsing. She's not going to buy, but she's just in browse mode. Facebook knows that in the evening time, she's more likely to buy. So what Facebook does is it figures out for this particular ad set and for this particular user, just serve up ads to that person and keep the frequency high during the day to try and capture them, but then try and get them into the sale later on in the evening. And then it might know, for example, she's on Facebook in the morning, she's on Instagram in the afternoon, and in the evening she's back on Facebook. So it will know to sequence the ads in that order. So that's the big advantage of keeping your placements together. However, the disadvantage is if you're starting to see good performance on certain placements, Facebook isn't super quick on monetizing that as well. So that's one reason to split it out. Second reason, that I have a client who's done a super good job of creating Instagram story ads and taking those to landing pages and converting them off. That sequence that they've set up with that particular ad and that landing page doesn't work on Facebook. They've tested it, just doesn't work. And so for them, they've created a specific funnel for Instagram that just absolutely is nailing it right now. So that's another reason why if you've created a funnel and it works for a particular platform and the creative and the landing page lends itself to that, then split it out as well. So for me, I always test out the placements depending on the different niches and the different products I'm selling. Generally, when I'm doing cold audience targeting, I would combine Instagram and Facebook. For retargeting, I'd probably put all placements together. And for cold and kind of in between, I'd test maybe splitting out placements if I'm looking to scale it, for example. Nicholas, part 2, linked to previous question, when and when not to use Audience Network. Everyone hates Audience Network, eh? I'm not a massive fan of Audience Network, but I've seen campaigns where when I merge the placements together, especially for retargeting, Audience Network works really well. So I've tested without Audience Network and with Audience Network for retargeting. And I think the reason it works is although people don't click and buy Audience Network, you're still getting impressions. You're hitting people up, reminding them of who you are. And so when you are ready to convert them on Facebook or Instagram, they've already been primed and they're kind of ready. So I think for me, really the only time I really use Audience Network is for retargeting if it's website related, but then also for app install. It's a great platform for app install as well. Swapnil, hey Deepesh, could you clarify the message bait rule? Are we not allowed to tell people to comment a certain word, or is it that we are not allowed to tell them to tag someone? So absolutely don't do the tagging thing. The word thing is probably borderline. I would avoid it if you can. Like with these commenting tools, they're all built to kind of grow engagement and things like that. But I think Facebook are really hammering down hard on policy right now. They've been hit hard by external influences, as you probably know, Russia, elections, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of pressure on Facebook, and so they're really heavy on policy right now. So honestly, try and avoid antagonizing Facebook where possible, because you will get bitten. So I think when it comes to things like that, you know, I ran a campaign where we were just trying to say, I can't remember what the wording was. It wasn't kind of say the particular comment, but we were just targeting people with any comment in the ad and just getting that to start a conversation. I don't want to give advice and say test it, because if it goes wrong, I don't want you coming back to me and telling me you said do this. So it's entirely up to you if you want to walk on the grey line and kind of test it out. But personal advice is just be aware of policy right now, and they're really quite harsh. WordTrack, hello. What would be best platform to create a landing page for a family board game to test every stage of development, building audience, run Facebook ads down the road, ClickFunnels, lead pages? Thanks for doing the Q&A. My pleasure. So up until probably 2 months ago, I kind of didn't like ClickFunnels. You know, you see those pages and you're like, wow, this like, who buys from this kind of stuff? Fast forward to 10 days ago, I launched a ClickFunnels landing page for my beta launch of my course and had absolutely amazing engagement and conversion. I'm now a big ClickFunnels fan. Now, it's a lot more than just kind of how it looks. It's actually what happens in the back end. The difference between ClickFunnels and lead pages and Unbounce and things like that, and I've used a lot of these over the last 5-10 years and built my own, or had my own systems built as well. ClickFunnels is specifically built to build a funnel. It's in the name, ClickFunnels. It's not a landing page tool, and I think if you get into the back-end system, it'll all make sense. ClickFunnels is not a landing page tool, it's a funnel tool. So if you want to build a sequence of pages, whether it's a landing page into a webinar or a landing page into a sign-up page or subsequent pages, that's what ClickFunnels is all about. So specifically on your question of a landing page for a family board game to test every stage of development, building audiences, run Facebook ads down the road. If you just need a landing page, then I don't think ClickFunnels is exactly what you need. You could get away with lead pages and Insta page and things like that. But if you're looking to build a funnel out with a landing page, maybe a checkout, we have a client, for example, they're doing landing pages in ClickFunnels and then pushing them into a Shopify cart, for example, because they want to use the ClickFunnels long format kind of sales pages to sell the product and just use the Shopify cart to transact. You can also do the cart in ClickFunnels as well. So I think for your particular example, it doesn't sound like ClickFunnels is the right tool. You just need a landing page tool. Yes, ClickFunnels can do it. Probably cheaper to do it through Unbounce or something like that. Again, I mean, I'm personally a fan of ClickFunnels. Give it a test and see how it goes. Hey, Yusuf, how you doing? Hey, Roger, do you feel that Facebook's bad performance for many e-commerce stores is due to massive changes or just algorithms? So I run an agency. I have e-com clients and we're profitable. If you know what you're doing, you can make it work. Yes, Facebook is getting more expensive, but if you're still in the kind of mindset of run an ad, convert, run an ad, convert, then you're probably going to suffer. If you're not refreshing your creatives often enough, if you're not doing audience testing, one of the key things about when it comes to e-commerce is when you're running those ads, what Facebook favors is the user experience. Facebook's #1 goal is not to make you money. It's to get the user experience, get the user happy, keep the user happy in their user experience. If you can kind of achieve that in your e-commerce objective and create great engagement, conversion through the funnel, and keep people involved and stuff, then Facebook's happy. And what I see, I see a lot of e-commerce ads that are just doing the old kind of style of loads of emojis and shouting and click here and things like that. Then yeah, I think e-com is going to be hard for those guys because Facebook is trying to cut down on the bad user experience. But if you're thinking about funnels and cold audiences and warming them up and taking them through a journey, or if it's just a kind of low ticket item, have a great ad, take them to your page and convert them, then it can still work. I'm here to tell you, I've still got clients that are profitable and still able to grow campaigns on e-com. So e-commerce and Facebook is absolutely far from dead, but I think some of the strategies need updating, and I think it's just worth keep testing things out as well. Quite a few questions to go. I'll keep going, it's fine. Kerry, hey, is it better to try and sell the brand as page post engagement rather than the product and then retarget with product specific ads? So just trying to understand the context there. If you're running an e-commerce store and you're trying to test products and sales out, then if it's a new store, you don't really have a brand yet. So I wouldn't even be thinking about brands. If you're an established e-commerce brand, then yeah, absolutely. I worked with someone who was working for a really large fashion retailer, and they honestly didn't have to try hard in their ads at all because their brand awareness was so high that you literally just show an ad and people know who you are, and they're either going to buy you or they're not. For most e-com people like me and you that are kind of running ads for e-commerce brands that don't have brand awareness, you're going to have to work a lot harder on your messaging. So convincing someone that you can identify with their problem, you've got a solution for them, and bringing them through. If you're talking about PPE, then get a video going, run video views campaigns. I wouldn't run PPE to scale out a campaign. For me, it's all about testing there. If you're looking to scale out and support website conversion, then video views is much better in my opinion. Hi Aziz. How to go about local marketing, but customer lookalike is always too small. When I get that in, do you have any suggestions, or is lookalike just for small local locations? When it comes to local marketing, so audience size is obviously a huge factor. The objectives are set up for very specific things. Now, if I'm running a local marketing campaign, there's 10,000, maybe 50,000, 100,000 people. Things like website conversion are not going to work well for you. Test things out like the video views campaign, or test out a brand reach campaign as well, because essentially what you're doing in a reach campaign is trying to reach as many people as possible. So if you've refined your targeting down, you've got, let's say, 10,000 people, but you're convinced that it's a really strong audience, you've done some testing to validate that, you can even use a reach campaign. You just want to get your message across to as many people as possible. There is a technique of also just going broad within a local area as well. Let's say you've got 50,000 people. If you can at least get your demographic down, so your age and maybe gender as well, run a video views campaign to them. And what you're doing is throwing a fishing hook into that audience and trying to create an audience on video views. So if you run a video views campaign to them, let's say you're running a 30-second campaign, I would retarget people that have viewed more than 10 seconds of it in that local audience, because they're the ones that have shown an interest in your video that are more likely to be your core audience, and then retarget them with something more specific around your product as well. So I think it's about keeping your audience objectives quite broad when you're doing that kind of thing as well. Hey Anthony, in your experience, what do you see a higher LTV on subscription or repeat purchase? Not entirely sure what you mean by that. So subscription is obviously recurring, and by virtue, if you can keep people in the recurring subscription, the lifetime value should be higher. If you're talking about repeat purchase, then obviously that's the same as subscription, but you're not getting them into a recurring payment and you're trying to sell to them on a regular basis. For me, they're different things. You know, if I'm subscribing to coffee delivery through my letterbox, then that's more of a convenience thing, that I drink coffee on a regular basis. I want to refresh my coffee every, my beans or whatever it is, every 4 to 6 weeks. So I expect that to come through. If you're talking about something which people will use and the product expires, or you want them to repurchase, but it's not necessarily a subscription, then use email and also Facebook ads post-purchase to keep yourself front of mind, so that when it does come about that they want to buy again, that you're the brand and you're the product that they're thinking about as well. So I don't know if that answers your question. Hopefully it was close. Target cost for bidding versus bid cap, pros and cons. So when you do target cost, that's basically an average, and bid cap is saying don't bid above this. So to give you an example, if you have, and I talk about max and average bid because that's I'm old school. It's going to take me a bit of time to get used to target cost and bid cap. What you're doing with the average, which is target cost, is saying on average I want to hit this CPA. So sometimes Facebook will end up higher, sometimes it might be lower. But on average, you'll get a good even cost per acquisition or whatever your objective is. The advantage is when you start to scale up that spend, Facebook will test more expensive audiences alongside that. So it's a way of almost doing your kind of automatic bidding, but giving Facebook a baseline. So with automatic, Facebook will always try and do that testing in the background as well. It will test different CPAs, but with the average, you're saying this is my benchmark. And I don't mind it going above or below, but that's on average what I want. With max, you're saying I absolutely do not want to go above this level. So if there is an auction just slightly higher, you're going to lose out on it. And Facebook will just absolutely never go above that. I use max or bid cap for testing. I don't use that for scaling. I use target cost because you want to give some scope for Facebook to have a bit of variability there as well. Ismail, is there a difference between $5 ad sets and more performance? Are the results proportional? I'm not entirely sure what your question is. If it's a question of $5 ad set versus spending more, I guess that depends on if you're getting good performance. So if you're getting good performance, you'd spend more than $5, obviously. But if you're testing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with testing $5 a day. The kind of payoff between how much you put into a test budget is how quickly you get results. So if you're spending $5 and your CPM, your cost per 1,000 impressions is $5, you're going to get 1,000 impressions for that. When I'm testing to validate a test, I want at least 5,000 impressions. So in that, guys, if you're spending $5 a day, you're getting a $5 CPM, you're hitting 1,000 people. That's a 5-day test. Now all of a sudden you stack up $25, you can get that result a lot quicker as well. But it's not just about hitting that 5,000 as quickly as possible, because you could set a budget of $5,000 and within some minutes, if not hours, you're going to hit your 5,000 impressions. But that, for me, I wouldn't call a result there. I want a good spread throughout the day. So that's why I kind of test with budgets between kind of $5, $10 up to $20, maybe $25 a day. So I'm giving the ads a good space to run within the day and then getting some good solid data back before making a decision as well. What do you mean between vertical scaling versus website conversions? They're two different things. So vertical scaling is, I use vertical and horizontal scaling. That's my preferred way of doing it. I will share more details on that once the course is live, and I'll share some free stuff as well on that as well. But website conversion is all to do with the objective. So for me, they're two different things. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's just something got confused there. But Alicia, give me a shout if that's not right. Justin, Stephen, thumbs up, all good. Stephanie, what's the best way to run sequential campaigns to increase sales? When you say sequential, I'm not entirely sure what you mean. If it's running one sale after another, is it that you have multiple promotions? Is it different products that you're pushing? If you can kind of explain that a bit better, I'm not entirely sure what sequential campaigns means. Imran, hello. Have you done much with Instagram ads? Absolutely. If so, have you noticed any key takeaways that's specific to that platform, using videos versus images, long copy, short? The video, for example, video format, the box format works really well on Instagram, for example. So when it comes to video formats, there's 3 that Facebook play with. There's, let me get this right, 16 and 9, which is the kind of more horizontal. There's a 1:1 ratio, which is square, which works really great on Instagram. and then you've got 9 and 16 ratio, which takes up more real estate on a mobile. That's actually really good because it takes up more real estate, and you get better kind of responses to that as well. Some people say, you know, the costs go up and it's not so good. In my experience, that format works really well on Instagram and Facebook as well, especially with stories. So it took me a bit of time to get into the kind of running ads on stories. I wasn't convinced until I started to run them there. And if you've got the long format running in stories, it works so good. And, you know, I'm not a massive Instagram user, so I can't say this is why it works well. I can tell you as an advertiser, it works well. So absolutely test out Instagram stories and design specifically for the story format, and see what you can do there as well. Cheers, Alexander. Hey, Rita, please host more of these. Absolutely, I'd love to. Syed, how quickly do you decide when to turn off a new ad set that's underperforming? So one thing I do tell people is when running an ad set, if it was performing well and it stops performing, it's probably more likely your creative than it is your audience. Because if you've got a good audience and all of a sudden it's starting to falter, there's stuff you can do around creative testing and testing different things out, or your bid optimization, maybe try playing with max bid, maybe try splitting out placements. If, for example, you go into delivery insights and you've reached 100% of people in that audience, then you could also try a completely different creative route. That just means that 100% of your audience have seen your ads and they've not, you know, the people that have not converted have not responded. Doesn't mean that they are still not your ideal user. So for me, probably 9 out of 10 times, if an ad set starts failing, it's the creative. But there are also occasions where the ad set's completely expired. But I would go through creative testing first and see if I can squeeze more juice out before shifting into a new ad set as well. Hey, Ricardo, have you advertised food before on Facebook? I have. I'm not sure what question is. Did some advertising for a two-sided marketplace for food, which had food sellers and food buyers. We're doing lead gen and getting people into email journeys and things like that. So I guess it depends what you want to sell. Hey, Jeff, how often are you checking relevance scores, and when you run into a bad one, what do you do? So I don't really look at relevance scores unless my cost per click is going the wrong way, because generally when that does, big reason will be relevance scores. So I've seen it, one of the kind of key things that I absolutely hate is when someone leaves a negative feedback on your ad, that then sees a decline in your click-through rate. People then start exiting your ads out and you see your relevance score drop and things like that. Relevance score is really a factor of how well your ad is being perceived by that person that's receiving it, which is a factor of how good your audience targeting is. So I've scaled accounts massively that have relevance scores of 2, maybe even 1 and things like that. So for me, it's not a main metric that I look at. I look at it as more of a troubleshooting thing. I have another client who consistently hit 9 and 10 because they sell dog-related services. Dogs are generally not offensive in your newsfeed. If you see a cute dog, you're not going to be like, oh, I don't want to see that. You probably just skip past it, or you might just interact with it, just watch it, even if you're not a customer. If you're targeting something that's very specific and people don't like it, they will exit out. So I think relevance score is more for that. One of the sub-metrics I absolutely loved, and I'm really upset Facebook are moving away from, is seeing the kind of positive and negative feedback, because the negative feedback directly told you how many people are saying, I don't want to see this ad anymore. Facebook are taking that away from July. I'm going to try and lobby them to give us something to replace that with. At least that give you an indicator as to why relevance score was down, but that will be gone from July. Cool, I'm just going to take 2 more questions. So, Stephanie, you got follow-up? I meant sequential messaging. So, okay, so sequential messaging is in like building a messaging funnel. So I covered this earlier in terms of thinking about video views campaigns, for example. So you might want to funnel people through different sets of videos, maybe put some canvas ads, some static ads, etc. In terms of kind of generating sales from that, for me, the higher the ticket value, the longer the sales process and the harder you have to work a funnel. So if you're selling a $25 product, then I wouldn't stretch out a funnel and sell them on a funnel. I would work hard on video and website conversion and video views, get them to the site, have a great landing page, and then retargeting. Doesn't need to be more than that. Now, if you're selling a $500 product or a $5,000 product, you need to work that conversion journey harder. So therefore, you're going to have to elongate your funnel, test different objectives, maybe try email capture, use an email funnel off the back of that, and maybe use direct response to support that. So it really depends on your funnel and kind of what your ticket value is as well. So grab one more question. So Alicia, they parallel to each other a couple of times. So I thought it was okay, that's not a question. Suzanne, you've got the last question. What is the tool you use to automatically turn on and off good and bad advertisement? I use RevealBot. It's a personal preference. The team there are super good at kind of adding features and things that we need, and they're really flexible. One of the big advantages also of RevealBot, because we are an agency, we manage multiple clients, we use Slack for messaging within the agency, and RevealBot plugs into Slack. So we have a Slack alert channel for each of our accounts. And so if anything happens, we either get an alert or we get to say that this particular metric has been hit, or if something's been stopped or changed, we get alerts for that as well. So we can tally all those up through Slack as well. It's another reason we don't use Facebook for rules and automation. I'm going to wrap that up. That was an hour and 20 of hopefully useful information for you. It's an absolute pleasure doing this. I really enjoy this stuff. Hopefully I do get a chance to do this again. Would love to hear your feedback in the comments or as separate posts. All feedback's good feedback. I'm kind of hard-skinned. If it's good, if it's bad. If you'd like to see something different next time, absolutely give me a shout. I do want to get, and I spoke to a few people recently about getting some live interviews with some other people as well. I have 2 or 3 people lined up. It's more about time, but hopefully we'll get something set up soon. And I'll see you online in the groups, and I hope you all have a great day. It's about 10:30 here, so I'm going to close up in the next few hours, but thank you for taking part.